Veteran wedding photographer Shelly Dawn Fryman shares how the wedding industry has changed over the last few years, and we chat wedding albums today. Your wedding album is your legacy. This album will be passed down through your family for decades and is a real, tangible family heirloom from your wedding day. Today's podcast guest is Shelly Dawn Fryman with Shelly Dawn Images, formerly of Rochambeau Photography. She just rebranded a couple of months ago. If you haven't checked out her new branding, you'll definitely want to do that. Shelly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Sarah.
I know as a photographer, it's really hard for you to be on the other side of the camera. Extremely.
Yeah, we're doing great.
We're doing great. We're just getting started.
Totally.
So if you are listening to this podcast, you can actually watch this podcast episode on our YouTube channel. Some of our episodes will have YouTube videos and some of them won't. It'll just depend. So just watch our social media for the difference in those. So Shelly, how long have you been a wedding photographer?
Wedding photographer, I think, was my first wedding was, if you want to call it like a backyard wedding, and when I was just graduating high school, I'd say that was right around 1999, is when like the film was still going on, and I was shooting film. I shot my first 5 weddings with film.
So that means without
seeing what's going on in the back. Yes, I love photography ever since I was a little kid, and always took my little, I don't know if you remember, those 110 cameras that were long and skinny like this, and they had like a weird film roll. Anyway.
I don't remember those, no.
That was in the 80s.
Okay.
And I took my parents' camera and just took pictures of everything. And high school took all the photography classes, darkroom. Through college took darkroom photography, got my degree in art photography. So I understood lighting-ish. As soon as I got out of college, I was on the job search. And I got a job working for a place called the Portrait Shop, which was a children's studio. Throw me straight into a children's studio. It was kind of nuts.
Bless your soul.
And the first week that I was there, I thought, no, they're going to kill me. They're taking over me. But I figured out a way to, I won't say manipulate, but get them to do what I needed them to do. Figure out how to keep them engaged and not think about what we're doing. And I think that's what I've learned from that job working with kids is learning how to get people to not think about what we're doing by talking to them and feeling comfortable and letting them know that I am just as nervous in front of a camera, so I get it, and try to make it fun after that.
So one thing you said is you actually have a degree in photography.
I do, art photography.
I didn't realize you could get a degree in photography.
Well, it's under the arts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fine art photography. So there is photojournalism and all those things, which I took those classes, but I got my degree in art photography, which was more fun, funky stuff. I like macro photography.
So you shot your first wedding before you got your degree in photography?
Yes.
Okay.
For one of my best friend's brothers.
Okay. How long was it that you shot your first wedding on a non-digital camera? What are those called? Just
a camera.
A camera?
Film camera.
A film camera. Okay, there we go.
An SLR.
Okay.
Technically an SLR, because now they're DSLRs, and now they're the mirrorless DSLRs. So I've been through the evolution. I even used in college, we used the medium format cameras, which is the big negative, in photographing someone under the hood and exposing. We did pinhole cameras and all that jazz. So I've been into photography for a long time. Not that I'm that old. Just photographed a high school senior. No, actually, I'll take that. I did a high school senior where I actually photographed her in her mom's belly. So it's she's 18. But I actually just photographed a college senior. That was one of my best friend's daughters when she was a baby bump through.
That's incredible,
she just graduated college. So it's been super cool to see these kids grow up. That's one great thing about being a wedding photographer too, though, is you get to follow these couples. And that's probably one of my favorite things, is to just follow them and see how they grow.
So you worked at the Portrait Shop or studio?
Portrait Shop.
Okay. When did you kind of go off on your own as a business owner?
Yeah, in 2011, I left Portrait Shop and worked for the Waldens, went to Waldens Photography, took over their high school seniors, always doing weddings on the side. But in 2014, I left Waldens. They were just changing. He was doing more teaching, and it was not a bad leaving at all. We're still good friends. But and I wanted to work on my weddings. So in 2014 is when I like kind of cut off and started doing just my business and weddings and portraits.
And you were a bride in 2020, 2021.
I was supposed to be a bride in 2020, but I was a bride in 2021. So I got married for the first time in 2021. So yeah, getting to experience the 2020 situation with all the other brides was kind of a fun thing.
And not only as a vendor, but as a bride too.
Totally. All my vendor,
I would have just left.
All my shoots got changed. Well, not all of them. We still did, but we altered some of the weddings, and we did some micro weddings, and that kind of thing. So it all worked out. And
how was it being on the other end of that wedding planning process and picking a photographer for your wedding?
It was interesting. I luckily had worked with lots of photographers here. And that's one thing that in the changing situation of like changing from when I first started to now, the photography community has gotten so much better. They're much more friendly with each other and sharing information. And I mean, I know Facebook really totally got that going. Putting us on the forums and stuff like that and sharing and looking for second photographer, shooters with us and that kind of thing has been awesome. And I totally got sidetracked of what I was talking about.
How you picked your wedding photographer?
How did I pick mine? Well, when I so Jennifer Chang Photography was my wedding photographer, and we have shot together many times, and she's similar to my style. I am very bold, cinematic, rich color, and very... I like to suggest posing, but I don't like direct everything, and I feel like she did a good job doing that. Same situation, and I knew that we would get along great, and so I chose her as that situation because, like I said, I looked at all these other photographers, and I looked at some, dream photographers that I've seen and admired their work. But truthfully, I mean, comfort and everything like that, Jennifer was very comfortable with me. She knows how I am in front of a camera. So I felt very comfortable. And so it was perfect. And I usually say if the person makes you feel super comfortable, it's probably what you need to do.
Honestly, that's priority number one.
Oh, yeah.
Because you spend more time with your photographer on the wedding day than you do your significant other.
Oh, yeah. And I always make it a good time. Like, I always say I'm a happy little ninja that, kind of sneaks in there, talks to you guys, and then, sneaks back out. And I got a couple great shots. And you're like, when you look back at your image, you're like, was she there? I'm like, that's awesome. So that's what I usually always joke around about, keep it flowing, keep everybody happy, and we're super chill.
So you were talking about what you liked about her style. Are there maybe a couple words that you would use to describe your style?
A lot of the times I like to use emotional as dynamic, cinematic. I like to use those words. It feels very in the moment, but also a little artistic, little fun times with little funky angle of where I am, not crooked shots, but where I am shooting through something. So more like that.
I tell couples whenever we're talking about the different styles of photography, and I have an email that I send out to my couples when they're looking for a photographer. I'm like, if you like this style, these are the ones. And I have yours in a timeless style. And I don't know if that's what you would consider yourself.
Oh, okay.
I feel like if we look back at the 2010 to 2012 range, we had these blown out photos and stuff. And I've always wondered if those couples maybe regret that style. Mm-hmm. And I'm always Shelly's look exactly, when you look at them 20 years from now, they're going to look like they're supposed to. You're not going to regret the way they look.
And I do feel like that definitely is coming from my art, just because I used to, in college, find things that were bold colors and things that stood out. And that's what I love about my photography. But then also working for Tim Walden for so long, if you don't have that skin tone correct, he's slap your hand. So, I honed in on making sure the skin tone looks correct. And the colors that they chose for their wedding is all part of, the photography and capturing the day. People who use a lot of filtering and that kind of stuff, it just takes away from me. Even though there's certain, really cool, moody stuff that I think is super cool, but it's just not me.
Yeah.
And I can recommend other people that are like that.
And I'm all about everything being dark, and I love black clothes, and I go from my summer black clothes to my winter black clothes. But when it comes to the dark photography, I'm worried again when people look at that in 10 to 15 years that they may regret a little bit. I'm like, I can't even really see what your flowers look like. You have this beautiful bouquet, but I can't see the colors on it.
I even used to put some images in black and white, and sometimes I still will put like maybe one or two, but like the people who go like color black and white, like that hurts me. I'm like, stop that. But if an image like reads, like feels like it needs to be black and white because it's just that cool vibe to it, then I'll put it in black and white.
Absolutely.
But I'm much more into the color now.
We've talked about how you started your first wedding on a film camera.
Yep.
How did you deliver those images to that couple?
Right. So back in the day, we would get all of our negatives, and we would get 4x6s, not doubles of each one, but 4x6s of each one. And then I made albums. I made straight up albums and gave them their images. And it's probably not the super most professional, but I gave them their negatives. I said, these are important to you. You should keep your negatives.
Like
I do not want to be in charge
thing,
of your
like the braille negative, like strips.
Yes.
Okay, because if you're, I don't even know what generation we're on right now, but there may be couples listening that weren't around when negatives
film
or
back
anything.
in the film. There are people that like to do film now, and it's a lot more of a skill that people need to like trust that photographer does it correctly if they're capturing your wedding, that you got to make sure that they do it often. But anyway, I used to give them their negatives because I don't want to make orders for you. And back in the day, people did know how to use negatives. So
and I'm from a small town, and so whenever somebody got their images back, I remember them being in an album. And they were the 4x6s, and like it was a big deal. Like, we would go over flip through them and look at all of the family photos, and it was
my life. I love looking through albums.
Exactly.
Like that's why I'm so obsessed about giving books to people. I was scrapbooking albums for people for years. Like that was even when it became digital. I would make them a scrapbook album. I would print things out, but I would make it cool. Like I would make a 8x8 image with multiple images and buy stuff to make it a scrapbook. I would love to see one. That would be fun to go back and see one because that was a long time ago, but it was fun.
So we went from 4x6s. Do we go to CDs after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
CDs. Giving them a DVD of their image, of their images. I had a case that they would go in and make it all schmancy. They used to laser etch the top of it.
That was a big deal.
Super cool. Yeah.
And then we went to USBs.
Yep. And I still do USB. USB and then the C. It's double. It's a double now. It was just USB, and then it became the USB and C. We're getting fancy. And I would give them a book that has the little flash drive in it, and I always tell them to back up their images as much as possible.
And you have one of those books with you, don't you? Will you pull one of those out?
Will I? Okay. So basically, I like to give people books.
Okay.
I just do. And not all my packages come with books, but at least I can give them something like this. And then there's a flash drive inside of it that has it's that double kind now, so you can do the USB. And
perfect.
Has my business logo, and then it has their name on it.
That's sweet.
That's so cute. But I've been doing the flash drives forever, like ever since they were available. Not that it matters anymore, but it also has a custom print release on the back. Nobody cares about those anymore. But, it's there. So if they did want to get anything printed, they have access to custom prints for personal use on that.
So we have gone from the USB to, which you still do.
Yes.
Most photographers do not.
Nope.
Most photographers just do an online download gallery now.
Hurts my heart. Yep.
I won't say it hurts my heart because I use them a lot for a lot of different things.
I don't mind them, but I like to give you something.
Absolutely, yeah.
In my hands, in your hands, for sure. So that's why I still do it. It's just, I can't help it. And I'm like, hey, if anything, that's your backup. and you can save your friends and family photos on it because it's a 16 gig.
Okay.
I get a big one, so it's like they can save other things on there that are memorabilia to them, and then hopefully back that up somewhere else too.
Yes. So if you just get an online gallery, make sure that you have those downloaded in a couple different places.
Yes, please.
Some photographers will only keep them up for a month to 3 months. I think you mentioned yours are a year.
I try to keep them a year.
And not every photographer is that way because there are some services that you can only have so many galleries up at once, that type of thing.
Sure.
I know there are some photographers that will have them up for 7 to 10 years. So every photographer is different. So if you do only have an online gallery, you will want to make sure that you get those downloaded in a timely manner. Yeah. And please do not screenshot those on your phone to put on Facebook. Please actually download it properly.
My God, please.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh my God, please.
Yes.
Don't screenshot those
Yes.
things. So the madness.
The other thing, I am team having a wedding album. Yes, I know that you are spending a lot of money on your wedding. And a lot of times I will hear the couple say that a photographer is so important to them. It's in their top 3 priorities. Great. But you have an online gallery. We need to make sure that we actually have those photos printed somewhere too. So let's talk about albums. I know that they're important to you as well. I mean, we talked about
for sure
flip albums from 1999 in a 4x6.
That's right.
And so they've come a long way.
They have come a long way.
Yes. There are a lot of different ways. There are a lot of leather-bound albums now.
And I do have 2 styles.
Okay.
I do offer the leather-bound. That is basically an a la carte item now. I have had packages where it's in it, but they were few and far between that went go to the leather album, but I do love them. They're gorgeous. So more nowadays I have, which has been my most popular book, is the coffee table book. So it still feels juicy in your hands. It has a soft cover to it. It still has the lay flat album where you can see all the images like that.
So do you pick the layout of the album?
I do, and that is one of the biggest things that I don't want to deal with because I've worked in studios where it was very hands-on, and I want to be the person that tells the story.
Okay.
I'm the one that wants to make sure that everything is told the way I want it to. It's too much pressure on them to design something, in my opinion. It takes a long time, and I can design a book so quick nowadays just because I know how I want it to be. And I always make sure that there's friends and family photos in there. I did some collage.
Fun.
I did some collage with a little bit of the double exposure with some tulips because she was like so into these tulips. So I wanted to make sure that those were captured and that kind of thing. Just make sure that they have something that that they can look back at or just leave out. Just leave it out all the time.
Because it's a coffee table book. Exactly. Unless you have a dog or a child that is going to destroy that.
Yeah, I made one for myself, and I leave mine out. And I've had so many couples that have say that they just love looking at their book all the time. Just pick it up and randomly look at it.
Yeah, I mean, my parents have been married, I should do some math, 44-ish years. And so my mother has the flip book of the 4x6s still on the coffee table. Yeah. So with that album, how many photos can you roughly put in it?
I have no idea.
Okay, a lot.
Seriously.
That was a lot.
It's it's the wedding day. I mean, basically, it's not every single photo that you get, but it's a lot of the images that tell the story. The ones that aren't in it are just kind of filler shots, in my opinion. But I make sure that I'm a big advocate of getting images of all your guests. There's a lot of wedding photographers that don't give two hoots about the guests, and they are just about the couple and the wedding party, and so they'll just get a couple handfuls of the guest stuff. But I make sure my second shooter goes to every table.
Oh, fun!
And gets every group of people because I want to see who was at my wedding too. When I did have my wedding, I didn't see everybody
the day of.
I didn't get to see them and or spend some time with them or something like that, and it was nice to have a photo that they were there.
And sometimes even as a guest, you know you're leaving and you want to say bye, but you don't want to interrupt them, but you haven't had a chance to talk to them. It's kind of that awkward moment. Yeah. So I think
and I always tell those guests, go talk to them, go say hi just for a second.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Like usually in the like it's late in the reception. Like if they're getting ready to leave, I'm like, you better get in there and say hi, or make them do a photo booth, or at least something. If not, push them into the photo booth to at least have a picture of them at their wedding. It's like some people are just like hightailing it.
See, that's me. I don't want to interrupt them. I don't want to bother them, so I just hightail it
If
out.
you're not, don't like stay there and like hold them forever.
Right,
like
yeah.
at a receiving line, oh my gosh, kill me. Yeah. Like when they take so long talking to them, like, no, there's like 20 million other people behind you. Come on, let's keep going. But I usually help the day flow pretty well. That's one of my favorite things is like if they don't have a wedding planner, I usually help make the timeline, and then I'm usually there just kind of like helping that day flow. And keeping everybody having a good time.
And that's especially if there is not a planner or coordinator, that really falls on the photographer.
Yeah, and I get into the reception, like I'm on the dance floor with the people, like getting the fun shots and like making sure that people are doing things and stuff.
So circling back to the albums, when do you typically deliver an album if it comes with a package?
Same time as the images, basically. It's
okay.
I'll get that stuff out. I try to get within 3 to 6 weeks.
Really?
Yes. Don't go over 6 weeks. It hurts my heart. So I can't do that.
I guess that's the benefit of you picking the images, because I think a lot of photographers do let the couples pick the images, and that's where it takes so long.
Totally. While I'm editing, I'm narrowing down and I'm pinpointing my sneak peek ones and ordering the custom flash drive case and getting that in, and then once the images are edited, because I do all my own editing, I'm very particular of how they look and that kind of thing, and then I just throw them in and make a story.
If a couple doesn't get an album with their package, how long after the wedding can they come back to you and be like, hey, will you design an album for me?
Whenever they want.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually just did another album for a couple that I did their wedding in 2016. And she text messaged me and she was like, hey, would you be able to make an album for our anniversary next month? And I was like, totally, let's rock it out. So I went and got my old hard drive, because I have backups of backups of backups.
Which every photographer should have. Please ask your photographer if they have backups.
That's true. And anyway, so I went and went back into my 2016 weddings and was able to pull those over and throw it through the ringer, and had to switch up my name because it was Rochambeau Photography before, which Shelly Dawn Images has always been my first name. It was my Instagram forever, the whole time. But once I started doing more weddings, I wanted to separate my commercial business, because I do business headshots, real estate, randomness like that to keep me busy.
Yeah.
And so finally, and I started Rochambeau in 2008, and then a lot of people butcher it and say it wrong and don't forget or remember my name, and they'll just tag me anyway as Shelly. Rochambeau actually means rock, paper, scissors in French. It's not the South Park situation that some men like to bring up to me, which we won't talk about that. But anyway, so Shelly Dawn Images were kind of like brought that back to the beginning, I guess, in the beginning of this year.
And so I'm guessing you probably know this, but those listening probably don't, because they have not gotten married yet. The 1-year anniversary gift is paper. And so I usually say that if you can't afford the album at the wedding time, let's plan for that on your first anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm team wedding album all day, every day.
Yeah.
You need an album. Even if it's just a small one, please do not say that you are going to get it off of a website for $20, because we know at the end of the day, you're never going to go make that for yourself. You need to have your photographer do that. You need to have it professionally done, because your photography was an investment and it is what you have left from your wedding.
Yeah. And like I said, the quality that I do in my books, I've cherished. I mean, it's when you touch it, you can tell that it's going to last a long time, compared to like a Snapfish or one of those books where the paper feels real thin, and like a magazine where it can easily rip if somebody's looking through it aggressively, or something like that. So I don't know. I like to, first year, second year, third year, any of those years.
Especially if grandparents weren't able to make it to the wedding day.
That's a big thing. So many people, especially like I said, grandparent stuff. because you don't have them all the time.
And you can also do duplicate albums for parents, for grandparents,
Actually,
smaller ones.
I had packages that had parent books, and I do offer parent books that are smaller size of the album.
And I know a lot of times couples will do that as like a Christmas gift or like a Mother's Day gift.
Yeah.
Anything like that. One of the things that you mentioned that I don't think we talk about enough as vendors is how close-knit our Lexington wedding vendor community is.
Oh, for sure.
You talked about second shooting and working with other photographers. I think that is, it's incredible. We have the Facebook groups. Everybody has everybody's back.
Heck yeah.
And when it comes to second shooting, that's kind of, if somebody's not familiar with that term, basically that means that you don't have a wedding booked for yourself that day, so you may work with another photographer as the second shooter, as the backup, essentially. You may go with the guys instead of being with the girls. And so I was talking to someone earlier, and he was like, oh, I'm not sure if I've met her before. And I was like, she may not have shot a wedding with you, but she may have been a second shooter, so you may not have known that name.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about second shooting and how you pick your second shooters for your wedding day.
Dude, it's nerve-wracking sometimes. I have pretty much stuck with the same few people that I can rely on. I have tried to go slightly outside the box on sometimes and slightly gotten almost burned, and luckily was able to find other people. When somebody cancels on you a week beforehand, that's a crazy feeling. But from 2008 on to about 2014, I had the same second shooter. She was actually my cousin, Valerie, and she had a normal job working for a florist, and then but she'd only second shoot for me.
Okay.
And it was just really fun. We had a great time together. She knew exactly what I needed, and it was just kind of a nice, like, bounce off. And then from then on, once she started, family stuff and all the things, I started looking into the community. And then from there, just meeting people at different networking events and just seeing who, kind of jives with you. I have a few different people, Megan and Caitlin and Mark have just been, my go-to people for the most part. And they all each have their own business. And we just kind of work together super great. Jennifer and I have gone back and forth a few times. Jennifer Chang, that did my wedding. And I've just known so many people for so long that there's lots of people that I've worked with that's kind of you feel comfortable with and share each other's information. Yeah. And we share each other's style. And most of the time a second shooter will shoot everything and then give you their card, and I do all my editing. I don't need them to do anything else. They are allowed to have rights to their images. I just say that you shot a wedding through me and you can use your images. I'm not gatekeeping on any of that stuff. And I don't know,
I don't know if you all have group chats in the photography world.
I don't say we have group chats except for the Facebook page where we hey, we have somebody looking for this or we're looking for this. There's not really where we're talking about random stuff besides on Facebook.
The planners, we have several different ones.
Do you really?
And a lot of that it's hey, have you worked with this vendor before?
Sure.
My bride is asking about this one.
Oh, yeah.
Some of us have traveled together. I think you all have probably done conferences before.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, our community here, we're smaller, I think, than a lot of people realize, and how close-knit.
Oh, yeah.
And just being there to encourage each other. And we're very blessed for that.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree.
Enjoy a beautiful getting ready space in downtown Lexington filled with natural light and charm with your bridesmaids on your wedding day. Located on Maxwell Street, a mile from dozens of wedding venues, is a little white cottage with a pink door. Studio rental includes access to the entire cottage, including a main room, a sitting room, a kitchen, a pampering room, and more. The studio is owned by Franzetti Photography, so you know the light is perfect for getting your hair and makeup done and your getting ready images. With one convenient all-day rental, you can start as early as you need and leave as late as you want. For more information, go to franzettiphotography.com. Before we wrap things up today, because you are a veteran in the industry,
yes,
are there any pointers that you can give couples for better images on their wedding day? Maybe one or two things that you think really makes a difference in their images on the wedding day, regardless of who the photographer is.
Try not to overthink it and have a plan. Like, yes, you want to have a plan, but don't have a plan to where you're only thinking about what's being photographed. Like, let it just be however the day goes. And hopefully you get a photographer that you trust enough to like make sure that it's your desired
and that's where your engagement session comes in too.
Totally.
And and feeling comfortable in the actual session happening and the outcome of it.
I just changed my packages a little bit to where now my first package doesn't come with an engagement session. And it kind of bums me out sometimes because I love having an engagement session. So I always kind of like say, you should not do that one. Let's do an engagement session because it does let them get to know me. I always make us meet as long as they live in state. You know, I've done several couples that don't live here that we've met on their wedding day and like just Zoomed, you know, that kind of thing. And I like to let them meet me, get my vibe. I like to get their vibe, kind of see how they are, that kind of thing.
And then maybe one more.
It's always nice to have somebody that's not your family member be in charge of the day, because that just helps everything flow so much better, and it not also be me. Like, I can help do that stuff, but you should have somebody that's not a family member help keep the timeline going and keep things flowing if you want it, you know, to just feel smooth. But no matter what, it's going to be a great day. We're going to have fun. You're marrying your person, and that's all that matters.
Perfect. So. Well, Shelly, it was great to get to know you a little bit more, and thank you for sharing so much about your knowledge. And I'm so glad that someone else is Team Wedding Albums just as much as I am.
Totally. I'm right there with you.